Here we are. So what I thought maybe, because we're talking about fitness and working as a fitness coach, is maybe if you want to start, Paulo, just tell everyone here a little bit about about your background. How did you get started working in soccer? I know a little bit about it. Obviously, I don't know everything, and maybe how did you get from getting started whenever that was 20 plus years ago to the work that you're doing now?
Wow, how did I get started? I mean, it just fell on my lap in ways that I never thought that we could make a living doing what we do. I remember early on, a coach very dear to me, Rafael Carvajal. He's the one that gave me the start with his team. My brother played for him, and he's the one that converted me to a fitness coach and said, "Hey, go make them run." At that time, I was a track athlete, and I started getting an interest for it, and people decided to pay me for whatever reason at that point to do it. And I said, you know what, there's something here. And so thanks to that guidance and the opportunities from Dr. Greenwood with the Sports Injury and Rehab Center, I mean, I couldn't be luckier to have two people who gave me opportunities well before my time or before my preparation. So that's how I got started. And there's so many stories to roll into from there.
Well, let's roll into them then. So at that time you were working with some of Rafael's teams. Like I guess it would have been Azzurri, CS Azzurri.
Yeah, CS Azzurri, and then we became Club Uruguay, and then we also had a team, and at that time it became Toronto Azzurri. Then I got involved with other youth clubs in the GTA. Because as you know if you're going to try to make a couple bucks, you have to wear a few tracksuits. And eventually I left with him to Italy and got to get that experience before coming back to really start making the next steps of my career, which was with the Ontario Soccer Association, and then with the youth national teams, and then with all the CPSL, CSL teams that I got to work with.
So do you think? And I know you and I have probably talked about this, but not online, not in front of anybody. But talk to us a little bit about like how valuable was that experience in Italy, and maybe just describe it a bit more, because as I mentioned, I know you worked with both a senior team and some youth teams, and it was through that connection with Rafael, and you were there for a year or two, and then came back, and I know your career really sort of started to take off after that. So. It
was a span of 2.5 years in Faenza, which is near Bologna. The club was owned by Giancarlo Minardi, which is at the time Formula One Minardi, which is now I think AlphaTauri. It's funny when I watch the Formula One next Netflix series, I see Faenza, and it brings me back to exactly where I started there. And that experience for me was the defining moment for sure, because there's no education that would actually have prepared me for what the real life is in football. I mean, I live it now, and I still touch upon those experiences, dealing with hard issues, dealing with difficult people, dealing with people, thousands of people wanting your job, dealing with media is trying to cut your legs. And I mean, back then I really didn't have the preparation or the knowledge at all, but what was nice is that I got to really see it firsthand. So now that 20 years later, I'm completely ready for it, and it's been a great ride. I mean, Faenza for me was a really fun time, and yes, I worked with the youth teams first, but then I got to the first team, and in the first team we were actually involved in a reality TV show where in the league one of the teams was actually followed by cameras like a Big Brother style, getting voted on and off. Imagine, I saw a video the other day getting back from the airport at 5 a.m. on my Facebook. It showed up a video of that period of time, and that's like well before social media. I mean, a concept like that now would have went through the roof. So there was a lot of feelings. There's a lot of things that went around that.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it was an amazing experience for you, and obviously helped you a lot. And now, I was thinking, again, hearing you talk a little bit about how you got started, and here in Canada, and some of the things you say, they ring very true for me too. So in Canada specifically, you came back from Italy, and that was when again, I guess you would have started working in the Ontario provincial program and Ontario soccer, and eventually with the national teams. Like at that time, I kind of know the answer to this, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. What was, did this the work that you did, was it well respected? Did people really understand it? Was there really a job and a career, or did you have to kind of carve your own path with it? And how did you make that happen?
There's so many layers to that. So yeah. I mean, so just to start off, I mean, to even get the position with the Ontario Soccer Association, the only way it was going to happen was that I had to get a grant from the Canadian Coaches Association, Coaching Association of Canada. So with we won a bid with Brian Rosenfeld. We made a bid to create this position, and that position was contingent of receiving that money and really not a penny more. So we made that happen. And at that point in time, for me, it wasn't about money. It was about doing the job. Yeah. And that was the same thing whether it was the Canadian Soccer League and many of them. Honestly, like, it actually, my stomach is turning thinking about some of those things that I had to do and went through, but they formed me, because I in the end, the most important jobs I've had were the ones where I got paid the least. And I say that all the time, and I mean it quite a bit. And in fact, and this, and this is one of the arguments I've always had with many people, whereas I never had a day job. What the thing was is that coaching in Canada, or especially in those times, is primarily in the evening from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Yeah. And people were like, no, they do a job during the day and they do that at night. And I was from the mindset that if I were to do something else during the day, that would be sidetracking what I really wanted. I was a professional at what I did. It didn't matter whether I was doing it for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or 5 hours, and it didn't matter what time it was. So the day was spent preparing, planning, learning, growing, and that was part of being the job. And I think that's one of the things that people have a hard time with. They try to have a plan B, and I never had a plan B.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I know we had talks about this too, and I've always sort of felt the same way, that if you what you said there is that if you had another job, you feel like it would distract and take away. I mean, I think even the amount of time and energy that you really need to do the best job that you can on the field means that you cannot possibly be working, from 8 or 9 a.m. until 5 o'clock, and then, plan a training session in the 30 minutes, while you're in your car or something. Like there's just no way.
It's impossible, right? It's impossible. And I remember a very defining conversation with you, for example, is that in 2011, it was probably the lowest point in my career, where I had no work, no money, nothing was going for me. I didn't get a sniff anywhere in Canada or any of the youth clubs. And it was a really low time for me. And I still scrounged up the money to go to Japan with you. Yeah. And we saw the top of the top experts and people that sat with us. We couldn't believe the people that sat with us. And to the point that even one of them, I was, 4 or 5 years ago, up for a job against, imagine. And for me, what was crazy is at that point in time, it was such a struggle. I thought that, maybe it wasn't for me. Maybe I needed to take a step away and that's it. And my wife would never let that happen at that point in time. But I remember that conversation with you where you're like, but what you want is very slim. There's only 3 clubs in Canada that at the time, it was 3 clubs in Canada that could give you that opportunity. I said, that's 3 more than I need. All I need is 1. Yeah. And funny enough, about 11 months later, I signed with one of them and actually had a great career with Montreal. And thanks to Montreal, I owe a lot to Montreal as a city, as a club. I wouldn't be with Club America if it wasn't for them either. And so I'm thankful that it went that way.
Yeah, I remember that. And funny enough that even though, the number of professional clubs here in Canada anyway has grown a little bit, the reality is, and I know you know this very well, that still it's pretty much those three that are in the MLS that are the only ones that are able to provide a real, I mean, we can say maybe a living wage, let's say, right? Something where you can simply just do that work and not do any other work. And I've lived through that a little bit too at some of the lower levels that are still professional. So I know, and I know how important that step for you was there in Montreal. So that was that was a big jump. And I do remember in Japan, and by the way, for people who are listening, so Paolo and I were there because we both had co-authored and done some work together, like collecting fitness testing data with the provincial teams and the NTC at the time, they called the National Training Center. And we had made a little a poster summarizing the research, which was looking into a comparison between the fitness test scores of some of the provincial players in Ontario, and then the scores of the players who started in the provincial program and then got into the NTC, and we were showing some of the differences there. So anyway, so that's why we were in Japan, and I do remember that talk, and I remember you telling me that, like, you said, I'm ready, right? And I'm meaning you're ready, you're ready to work at the next level. And then not long after that was when you started to do it there in the MLS. So maybe talk to everybody a little bit more about, what was it like working in Major League Soccer? What was it like with Montreal? And you also got, obviously through that, you got the opportunity to work with some top players, Italian players, including Alessandro Nesta. And obviously that was probably a big challenge for you, but also very rewarding, right? So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Thank you for watching this short preview video from the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada. To see the full video, plus have access to hundreds of other coaching videos, blogs, webinars, and podcasts, plus free and discounted coach education courses and other soccer merchandise, plus to have exclusive access to register for all future NSCAC conventions, both live and online, click on the link below to become a member of the NSCAC today. Also, please remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as your continued support allows us to continue to provide coach education and coach development resources to soccer coaches across Canada and worldwide. Thank you again for your continued support, and we look forward to seeing you at future NSCAC events.